All right, I think we're here. Um, we worked on this the other day, if you remember, and it's only been taken so far, obviously. And so what we've got is a gal kneeling on the ground and about to be attacked by a prehistoric beastie. And yeah, very good. So I'm going to continue with that. Um, I like the idea, her hair kind of flipping, like she's tossed her head around like, oh, and so I like that kind of motion. That helps express that she's just spun around, or that she's not just sitting still, posing like, oh, you know, you've got to do something to flip that and do something to give yourself that motion. So, for example, if she had a bracelet on, normally a bracelet would hang down if you were just holding your arm up in the air. So the idea that she just swung her arm around, that big bracelet would uh, fly away a little bit. So that kind of thing can give you also a sense of movement. If she has earrings, perhaps for those earrings not to be looking too stable and not to be hanging down, straight down. Maybe they're flipping in a way. I'm not sure that's reading, but okay, that's the kind of thing. And so also, I haven't decided what she's wearing, but I do know that whatever it is she's wearing, I want this a little bit of the same. I want some kind of a sense of motion from it. Uh, um, Also, I kind of feel like, even though I drew that correctly, just feels like half a leg. You should be able to. I mean, that there's a lower half to her leg, but you can't see it from this angle. And sometimes in the drawing, it's not as convincing as a photograph would have been, and it looks more like just a leg stump or something. And I don't like that. So having something cover that is going to feel a little better. And so that's kind of what got me started for a costume. I want her to have some kind of shoes, just because of her attitude that she seems frightened or whatever. I'm just kind of going on the assumption she's not necessarily a badass warrior or something. Not that a badass warrior couldn't be startled by a million years extinct prehistoric monster suddenly diving on them out of the sky. But yeah, it just overall your impression is not that this is a warrior type of person. So I'm not going to dress her up that way necessarily. Which sort of asks, where is she? Like, is she getting attacked on the street, in the palace, out on the patio by the pool, or is she traveling? Is she out in the forest or something? Who knows? Yeah, perhaps she's escaping. Perhaps she's been a prisoner and she's escaped. I don't know. I don't know yet. I usually don't have a story in mind when I start. I draw, and then the story happens as we go, which is a very different way to go about making artwork. but it's kind of fun. I kind of like the fact that sometimes things happen right in the middle, things that just that startle you and make you think, wow, I didn't see that coming. Possibly one thing you never saw coming was that I was going to do a video. Um, but but I did. I did. Um, Yesterday we were on Zoom all day long. Uh, Not that we were, performing, but just had the Zoom room open, the laptop sitting open. We had two. My wife and I both uh, have an account, so we had two laptops in the house open. So you could see us working in the kitchen, and then we had another one that was most of the time was pointing at the dining room table, and you could see, you know, as we finished things and set them out on the table and stuff. And then there were other groups doing similar. And at one point, my sister's uh, daughters joined, and so uh, not all of them, but I had my sister's husband Alan and three of his daughters and one of the daughters' husbands and a child that I've lost track of, which one. I'm pretty sure I know which one she is. But yeah, there was a child and Ariana, and then yeah, these are people I almost never get to see. So um, and usually when we do talk to them, it's just it's always been a phone call on holidays and stuff like that. So this was different that we actually got to see them, and when they joined the thing, they had just finished up dinner. So there was it's the Thanksgiving dinner, and here we were with our Thanksgiving dinner. It was kind of like all of us having Thanksgiving together, which was uh, it's what we were hoping for. That was really nice. And then while they were on and talking to us, Stellar's mom joined us with so Stellar's aunt and cousin and his wife and a couple other people. So we got to we got to see them, and and then Sissy and her husband and her child, who was rather entertaining. They were we watched watched. I mean, they were they were on for a while, and so um, actually I watched Sissy do some of her photography work because she's doing some product photography on the kitchen table with all the lights and the reflectors and all that, and that was fun to watch that. So it was good. That's what it was. It was good. Prior to my sister dying, the family would get together um, fairly often, and usually at my mom and dad's house up in Prescott. And so, we would see them usually once a year, maybe sometimes twice a year, at things like either Christmas or Thanksgiving, and sometimes, some other occasion. Um, but of course, the girls all grow up and get married and have kids, and then they got their own house and their own Thanksgivings to do, and that's as it should be. But this year in particular is just very so isolated. We've been so isolated. So it was nice to feel a little bit in touch with some people for Thanksgiving. When we first started talking about Thanksgiving, I said to Stella, "Oh yeah, we'll get a little, we'll get just a turkey breast, and we'll do the Thanksgiving dinner, but we'll scale the whole thing down to to just the two of us." And she said no, and we just went ahead and did a full scale dinner as if we were cooking for a family. I mean, it wasn't as big as it would have been if we were cooking for uh, 12 to 15 people, which we've done frequently in the past. But it was still way more than the two of us needed. It was a feast. We had a turkey and mashed potatoes and gravy and pie and stuffing and a sweet potato dish and a mushroom dish that I just love. And and now we have a ton of leftovers. A ton. But I think I agree with her philosophy that it was just too. This year's just been too disappointing as it is. That I just don't want to miss out that much on something that we normally do. So if we do our regular thing and generate a pile of leftovers, and so it is. So I'll make that work too, and we will. We're going to put a lot of it up to freeze and use later. The bird mostly, the turkey, um, that freezes well. And then we'll render down the bones and stuff and make a broth. The broth is largely for the sake of the cats. Uh, Sometimes when the cats are, well, when it's too hot outside, um, sometimes they won't eat. They need something to stimulate their appetite, something better than just the kibble, because they just won't get interested in eating. And uh, so a dish of broth sometimes does it like that. And if they're sick in any way, we kind of have to force it. If they're sick, we have to kind of make them drink it. But it is something that you can do. Get one of those feeding syringes and just make them drink some broth. Of course, it's good for other things. It's good for making soups and chicken pot pie and that kind of stuff. If you think of a pattern like big flowers or something like that, that's on a piece of cloth, but the piece of cloth is all turned and rolled and wrinkled and undulating like that. You can't just draw the flowers, right? Because you wouldn't, probably most angles, you wouldn't see the whole thing. Maybe someplace over here or something you could kind of indicate the whole design, that it's little no, not a four, usually fives, five petal flower. Okay, let's say it's like that, like a hibiscus kind of a thing. Well, that's great, but the rest of the time you're not going to see it. That's kind of flattened out, so you'll see a little bit of it. So now you want to indicate that that pattern repeats again, but it's folding around something. And so here it is again here, and maybe kind of offset here. So you took that flower and you buckled it like this, and so you got to visualize that pattern, um, fold it around like that, and yeah, that gives your cloth, um, gives us a lot of a sense of depth and movement, and that it's really folded like that, and is taking up a three-dimensional space. If you were just to polka dot it with the complete pattern, it would just turn it flat. It would just look like a cutout that was pasted on there. It's looking kind of Hawaiian. Big flowers and leaves, no surprise there. And the fact that she's got a skirt that just leaves her legs exposed and stuff. That's a very Hawaiian hula girl kind of look. We're not concerned if that's actually a realistic Hawaiian hula girl kind of look. Just that you're getting that vibe. That was not intentional, and I may not, I'm not going to struggle to keep it. Um, it's got that look in passing, if you will. Some of you are supporting my Patreon, for which I love you, even though it doesn't show, because I don't have a lot of energy left over for the Patreon site. I have made it clear, I think, that if you support my Patreon, you're essentially supporting uh, that thing that I do, which mostly shows up here on Facebook in the posts that I make and the videos that I'm making and whatnot. But there are a few Patreon supporters that don't do Facebook, and I don't understand why. It's just people, and so I try to remember to get in there and actually post things to Patreon, to the Patreon page. which is just not an active, dynamic page. It has the potential to be, it just doesn't typically happen. And so, um, people are supporting me, and that's wonderful. I'm not complaining. It's just there isn't a lot of activity, like people commenting or asking questions or saying, "Hey, do this," or anything like that. So, um, it just isn't a real active group participation thing. Plus, the number of patrons is much smaller than the number of people that watch me on Facebook and whatnot. Anyhow, I said all that to say this. What I'm endeavoring to do is to take all of these videos that I'm making, except for the ones that didn't work, um, and download them off of Facebook, upload them onto YouTube, and then link them into my Patreon so that people who just follow the Patreon and nothing else have something to look at. And that may sound simple. It is, once you figure out how to do it, all the things, um, you can just kind of click through it, but it is nevertheless a long and tedious process. And but nevertheless, I'm doing it, and it's cool. It's cool to be able to see those things happen. You made this video, and then you download it and you put it on another site. So I don't know if it's because I'm old or because I'm childish in my brain, but I'm still impressed with all that stuff. All this technology that we're enjoying, um, and that's so common, still occasionally makes me stop and go, "Wow, can you believe that happened? It's amazing." I really think it is amazing. But yesterday was very much all about eating, which means today is been largely also all about eating. And you got that feeling that you get when you're like, "Oh God, I really think I ate too much." And yet I'm still going to have some more pie. I shouldn't have more pie, but I'm going to. That, in case it's not familiar, is what crapulence is. It's the feeling of crapulence. Just made that pterodactyl a lot bigger by putting the guy on his back. After drawing this in the last one, I went and looked at some, well, photographs of pterodactyls, you know, the way you do. And they've done one little inaccuracy. I've done the arm more or less correctly, but they've got like another wing segment that would be kind of like the wrist going this way, and then the hand picking up over here. So just elongate this shape a little bit. It's like another segment. So it looks like a triple jointed arm, you know, shoulder, elbow, and then another elbow, and then a hand. But you know, you'd always assume the wrist to be right here behind the thumb, but actually this would be the wrist joint. So that guy doesn't need a lot of detail, it just needs to be clear that there's a guy up there. So that's much more sinister than just a wild animal chasing after her. We now know it's directed by some malevolent people, and there's something going on. So if she is a princess, or you know, some important person, rich person, maybe there's a kidnapping happening here. The kidnapping is a great basis for a story, but old Edgar Rice Burroughs kind of overplayed that. Um, every every one of the John Carter of Mars books were, oh my God, the princess has been kidnapped, and then they chase all over the planet trying to figure out where she is, and they rescue her and fall into each other's arms, and then he turns away to give a speech to his guys, and somebody kidnapped the damn princess and segue into the next story. Um, and Yeah, it's just she spent her whole life kidnapped. That was her permanent state of existence. Maybe I could have Ned getting kidnapped all the time, and this girl could be running around rescuing him. I don't know. But it's Black Friday. I hope you're not really out there slugging it out in the department stores, getting other people's COVID all over you. But I believe it's just Stellar and me in this room today, and that's all right. Watch it later on the playback. And this being Friday, I won't be doing any Facebook tomorrow, but I will be doing my Zoom meeting at 5 o'clock Arizona time. And if you want to draw along with Gil and talk and have fun, we'll be doing that again. Even though we did Zoom all day yesterday, we're going to do it again. Not all day. We're going to do it for an hour or two uh, tomorrow night. And other than that, I will see you all on Monday at 3 o'clock. Thanks again. Bye bye.